Hey guys, and welcome to a new movie review on this channel. And today we're gonna talk about Grave Encounters, which was released in 2011 by the Vicious Brothers. So in Grave Encounters we have the main character Lance Preston and his TV show production team of the famous haunting TV show Grave Encounters. And they are exploring supposedly haunted places to find out if ghosts really exist or not. And this time the team has decided to take it up a notch and go to the supposedly haunted mental asylum. And even though the whole team doesn't really believe in paranormal activity, they will soon find out that there's more to this mental institution than meets the eye. So that's kind of the dramatic explanation of what the movie is about. So I have to get this right off my chest. Grave Encounters is a movie that really surprised me, and in a positive way. So the acting overall across the board in this movie is good to really good, I would say. The actors really know how to convey emotions like fear, despair, the feeling of being isolated. They really excel in these performances. They really do a great job in this movie. And it's essential, I think, because the strongest part of Grave Encounters, and I think the main factor to why it succeeds in what it tries to do, is it knows how to build creepy and scary atmosphere. It really succeeds in that. And I think this is one of the most important things when you make a horror movie. You need to make your viewer get drawn into the movie and feel the isolation, the despair, the fear that all the characters in the movie feel themselves. And that's why the scares in Grave Encounters really work. And that's just one thing actually. The other point that makes the scares in Grave Encounters really good is there are some creative, non-stereotypical scares in this movie. Remember when I talked about Brahms, The Boy 2? I told you how stereotypical this movie is, how every jump scare is like this textbook jump scare that we know from all the schlock horror movies that we have these days. In Grave Encounters, you don't have these like piano bomb jump scares, you know what I mean? They don't happen in this movie, and also you don't have any music in this movie, and I love that fact because this movie is a found footage movie. I mean, it's like the typical like textbook example found footage movie. It starts off with, you know, a production team has gone missing and we found the tapes of what happened that will show it to you. It's really like this textbook setup for the movie. It's kind of like Blair Witch, like the mother of the found footage genre that made it so popular as it is today. And Grave Encounters really tries to make it look real. Almost. There is one moment in particular that everyone knows. Again, I'm not gonna spoil you the movie. I'm gonna try to be as spoiler-free as possible because I believe you really should watch this movie if you like horror. Because it's like this small, indie, low-budget horror film that really shows that you can make good horror films. Also without having like huge-ass budgets. Most of the time, actually, the films that have like the big budget in horror are most of the time the worst. So what I meant with Grave Encounters really pushing this found footage message is there is no music in this movie. Why would there be? It doesn't make sense. There should be no background music. If you have some ambient music in the background, the viewer will of course realize it's fake. I mean, we all know it's fake, but you know what I mean. It's pretending to be real. And if you want to make the viewer think that it's real, you have to put the effort in to make it look like it's real. And if you put in like ambient music or like this boom, it looks fake as hell. And I applaud them for holding back and not resorting to this stereotypical boom, boom the whole time, you know what I mean. And I have to preface this by saying most of the time, the scares in this movie don't have a tell. So you don't have like this moment before the scare where you know, okay, something's about to happen, something's about to happen. Like normally in all the run-of-the-mill horror movies, you have like the ambience music is getting silent and then the character's like looking to one side, looking away, looking again to this side, looking away, and you know, in the third time it's gonna jump in your face. That's normally how jump scares are done in run-of-the-mill schlock horror movies. But this movie, again, because it's trying to be real and that wouldn't make sense, you could do it. You could resort to this like fake, I look away, then I look again there, I look away, I look again there, and then the jump scare happens. You could do this in the like ambience of it being real, but your brain as a viewer would immediately be like, oh, that's a stereotype, and you would be taken out of the movie. And thankfully this movie doesn't do it. And also this movie doesn't have these tells, so jump scares just sometimes happen. And that's why there is a jump scare in this movie that really took me actually by surprise. And that's really saying something, because these days it's so hard for me to get scared by a jump scare, because I like can tell them from like 2 kilometers away already. And the thing is, there's this one jump scare, or two actually. There's one that is a textbook example for not having a tell. They're just like talking to each other and one character turns around without any tell, just turns around, and then there is the monster. And it was really nice. I liked that. It got me because I didn't think it would happen. There was no tell to like indicate it would happen, and I loved that because it first of all felt real. And that's just, I liked it. And then there's another scare in this movie that I really adored, and that was this one creative scare where you could tell they put in the effort. They were looking at how they could make an effective creative scare, and they took the time to come up with this scare. And that was, I can't tell you, but it had this one of these scares that has a tell, clear tell. When you see it happen, you immediately know, oh no, shit's about to get flipped, and then it gets flipped. But the way they did it, I liked it. It was a really creative way. It's not like we haven't seen this kind of scare before, but it's not done in a lot of horror movies actually. I know I have seen this scare before once, but I just can't remember when. It must be a long time ago. But the scare was really nice, and I applaud them for the scare. And also, what I loved, I told you the creators held back. They didn't resort to the stereotypical jump scares, the stereotypical story, like the stereotypical female screaming, "Oh, I'm so helpless" characters. They don't do this in this movie. But what they do also, what I like, we can see that they put in the effort to make a great horror movie, is also in the ending. The ending is abrupt. It just ends. There's no feeling of there being a resolution. You can kind of guess what happened. You can guess what happened to the crew, but there is no like clear, this is what happened and this is how the story ends. It just like ends on this one scene. I loved it because it had this eerie feeling of, oh, and you thought, oh god, this happened. And I just liked it because they set it also up. What happens, what this character says in the end, or what happens at the very last 2 scenes, it was set up before in like a small exposition scene of the mental institution, and I just loved that they put in the effort to make it pay off in the end. And I just loved the ending also because they held back and said, okay, how can we make it seem real? Because again, if it's real, if it's like supposed to be real, most of the time there is no like stereotypical, oh, it resolutes, everything's great, we have the perfect resolution, or everything is bad resolution. Sometimes there is just no resolution, it just ends. And you don't know what happened. And I just loved that they also put in the effort and took the extra step to make that happen. So guys, as you can see, I really liked Grave Encounters 2, and I really would say it's one of the better indie horror movies that I've seen so far. And that is why Grave Encounters gets a 7.5 out of 10. And with that comes a recommendation to watch this movie if you like horror. Really, watch this 1,000 times over the new Brahms, The Boy 2, Annabelle 2, Annabelle 3, The Nun, or The Nuns 2, or I don't know, I think La Llorona, or all those typical, like stereotypical horror movies, or like, honestly, in my opinion, like all the Paranormal Activity movies. Honestly, I don't know why Paranormal Activity 1 was so famous. I mean, I get it because it was like the first one of its kind, but to me this movie is kind of boring. So I think Grave Encounters is actually a lot better than this movie. Funny that it didn't took that much off actually. But anyway, the movie got some fame and got a sequel. And oh boy, we will talk about this sequel. So yeah guys, that's my review of Grave Encounters. What's your opinion about this movie? Have you seen it? If not, or if yes, what's your opinion? Write it in the comments below. Let's talk about this movie or the horror genre in general. Do you also think that the horror genre these days is quite lazy, quite always the same? Let's talk about this. Let's discuss this in the comments below. That was me, David, signing off. Have a good one.